Good. Effective, is that AFF or EFF?
Effective A.
Benefit. So we know we're right.
Effective is the act, affect is the...
Here you go.
All right, I've got 5 p.m. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Ask Commissioner Stewart, if you will, lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Please stand and join us. Heavenly Father, again, we come to you tonight, God, humbled, Lord, we just ask that you bless us here tonight with wisdom to carry out the business of the county. We thank you for your mercy and grace. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We have several opportunities for you to participate. We have a citizens to be heard at the beginning and another at the end. You can speak on either one or the other. Please fill out a speaker card with Miss Patty. You can also speak on each individual agenda item and give us a speaker card for each one. And when you come up, give us your name and address so the folks watching at home can hear as well. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
I'd like to pull consent tab 7.
7.
Are you moving that to general business?
Correct. Gary, is your phone off?
All right. Any other changes?
I'd like to put in the beginning at the awards and presentations, an introduction of the new ranger for the Apalachicola National Forest.
Okay, very good.
Good time to ask him about 309.
Yeah, it would be. Good.
Mr. Clint Davis, right?
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, we'll go into our first citizens to be heard. We'll hear from Miss Michelle Harden.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, as you said, I'm Michelle Harden. I live at 630 Persimmon Road. I wanted to take a moment to voice support for Commissioner Moore's proposal regarding the charter review that he'll talk about later tonight. I have somewhere I need to be in a couple of minutes, so I wanted to go ahead and talk about it. This issue came to sharp relief for me last election day. I was at my then work, and a young lady told me that she had voted her party's ticket in the local elections. And I pondered that for a moment and asked her, how did you do that? Because at this point, of course, the ballots don't include the party. And she told me that her particular party always put their candidate first on the ballot. And so she had just voted for the very first person in each local race. And I thought about that for a moment and how I was going to respond to it. And I ended up trying to find a very kind way to say, you have voted very randomly for the person who had the providence, the good fortune to be the first alphabetically. She voted very randomly, and she was very chagrined to hear that. Unfortunately, I think sometimes people, in this particular case, I know she worked multiple jobs. She was walking into the voting booth, and she really wanted to know that information. I think knowledge is power, and I would love to see the citizens have an opportunity to address that. So that's my take on that. Thank you for hearing from me.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. John Lee.
Does this sound okay?
Yes, sir.
I would have worn my hearing aids, but I forgot them. So, the reality is I may talk a little bit too loud. First, I want to say thank you for the chance to speak here. I have not spoken at a commission meeting since 1975 or 76. I came to the last one to watch, and this is well-run. Compared to the 70s, this is incredibly well-run. I'm not going to compliment David. You know, you guys have done a nice job. I've spoken to Randy, I've spoken to Chuck, and moreover, I've spoken to Mike. And Mike, bringing Walmart here was the greatest thing that happened to this county in terms of dollars and jobs. Mike, thanks for your vision. I'm an optimist. Now, you have to be an optimist when you do what I do. I used to give speeches 250 days a year to audiences that did not want to hear me. And that's for real. So I'm used to ups and downs. I have been a witness to what's going on at Lake Ellen since the 70s. In fact, I spoke once here in the 70s and said you can't mix boats and swimming. That was after J.D. Jones and his girlfriend was hit someplace in the 60s, and a young boy was hit just before I came to speak. Since then, we've had at least 5 different people hit. One deputy lost a leg. One young girl lost her life. So hopefully, as you go forward, you don't mix boats and swimming. And secondly, hopefully, we don't have the problem on engines. Now, the last point's real simple. I gave you some handouts to look at. The word is wisdom. I mean it. This is what you have. You have a situation which is called a no-win. I think you said about who do we give this thing to back in the article that I read, Previous Life. And when I say wisdom, it's one of those, there's no right, there's no positive, there's no easy answer here. And when I say I'm an optimist, right now, please keep in mind, over 10,000 firms have bailed out of California. 10,000 firms. Carl Jr., great place to get hamburgers, they left. They're in Texas. Nissan left. New York City, where I've had a home, and I've had a home in La Jolla too, New York City lost 5,000 plus companies. You have any idea how many jobs they've lost? We have the baby boomers retiring now, and what we have here in Wakulla is a wonderful opportunity to bring wealth into this county, to create jobs and opportunities. And that's why I have been talking about the same thing for 40 years about cleaning up our failed subdivisions. In the very back, I've given you some statistics. And what you have to understand is right now, we haven't really improved Lake Ellen Estates. It's still a failure. It's going to be a failure forever. It's going to kill everything. And my hope is that as you go through the problems you're working, that we can come back and resolve some of the subdivisions, because they make other subdivisions fail. And I'd love to see us grow jobs and grow a future for those who are raised here, those that want to live here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming. That ends our citizens to be heard, awards and presentation.
Yes, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Clint Davis. He's our ranger here on the Apalachicola National Forest. He's moved here a couple of months ago from Arkansas. So, welcome, Clint. Replaced Marcus Beard, who retired.
I aggravate Chuck about this every single meeting, but I drive down 309 going to Smith Creek. Is there any way you guys can grade that thing? It hasn't been graded in like 10 years. You did? I swear. Thank you, Chuck.
Well, yeah. Welcome, sir. If we can help you with anything, please let us know. All right, that ends our awards and presentation. Do we have a motion to approve the consent?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. All righty, so we will jump right into item number 7, general business.
Chuck and I will be recusing ourselves.
I'll do it, that's okay. This agenda item requests board approval to schedule and advertise a public hearing to consider adopting ordinance relating to boating and skiing on Lake Ellen, the Lake Ellen Drive water access area, and the swimming at county parks and facilities. Some of these provisions are already in your code, and we're moving them from one chapter 21 to chapter 23 where they should be codified. The other provisions in here are to implement board direction we received regarding the Lake Ellen water access area.
This item is to simply advertise
That's
to
correct.
have the public hearing.
That's
This
correct.
isn't the actual public hearing.
So no formal decisions will be made tonight, other than whether or not to put it on the...
To even have a meeting.
We can change, we can change some verbiage if we want tonight. Is this
Sure.
the proper time to do it?
You can provide us with direction, and we will advertise it and bring it back with that.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we, for discussion, to approve it for discussion.
And these two guys are abstaining from the vote, so Jerry, you want to second that?
I'll second. All right. If I may, Mr. Chairman, the only issue I had, and I want us to talk about it, and I asked the two guys who recused themselves, y'all can join in this conversation as well, but is the 25 horsepower rule. I think that was just an arbitrary number we used. I'm not sure where that was scientifically come from anything, but I'm suggesting that maybe we reconsider that to be 10 horsepower or below. All the places I've ever seen this done wherever I've been in the world is that it's usually 10 horsepower or below, and then you can have a boat with any size motor launch there. You just can't engage that motor if it's bigger than 10 horsepower or whatever horsepower we end up using. So I've heard from some of the landowners there, some of the the people who live on that lake, and that's their wish, and I'm trying to meet in the middle here with everybody, and so
I think that the 25 was an arbitrary number because I just maybe put that out there. But I think that the 10 horse is okay as long as you don't have to take off your 60 horse motor.
Right.
As long as you just have the 10 horse in the water, then that should solve all the problems anyway. It keeps people from having to buy a lot of 25 horse motors.
If I want to take my boat down there and it's got a 50 horse motor on it,
Yeah.
I can launch it and I can run with my trolling motor and fish. But I can't engage that 50 horse motor. And
Is that the policy pretty much in is that the policy in the parks? Do you know that?
put him on the spot.
It's really hard to enforce if you let the motor in the water, body of
I
water.
hear that, but
And so in most of your lands where these lakes like the refuge, they won't allow you to put a boat with the bigger motor on it in.
well, if that's what we're going to hold to, then we need to keep it at 25. But I was just trying to limit, people from racing up and down the lake. I want to see the boat ramp there. I'm not going to back away from that. I think that's my opinion. I think we need to move forward with the advertisement, and I'm fine with leaving it at 25. I wanted to bring up that point and see what y'all thought. Ralph, I'd like to hear what you had to say, and the rest of you. But
When you first brought it up, I thought you were going to go the other direction, because I've had a lot of people approach me and say, well, I've got a 40 horse and I use that to go brim fishing. And so it's a tough situation, and I know we're trying to find some kind of compromise there, but I don't know.
The people that I talked to, and they wanted maybe to keep the same motors on the water, the larger ones, but they also accepted the 25.
I talked to a guy today that lives on the lake, and he said he didn't have a problem with what was being proposed.
25, and that's fine. If we leave it at that, that's the number we're going to stick with, and that's fine. But
I think it's important for the public to weigh in between now and
Yes, I agree.
the public, hearing,
Right.
because we're about to decide something, one way or the other, do something or do nothing.
And the public needs to know that to make sure that if you're hearing this tonight and you're concerned about what's going to happen on Lake Ellen, right now we're proposing that there's going to be a primitive launch there. If you can get your boat in the water with that primitive launch, then it can have no bigger than a 25 horse motor on it. So that's what we're proposing. If that's
You
not
cannot
something-
launch jet skis.
Right, and no personal watercraft. So
No,
now
no.
that doesn't preclude the people living on the lake to use their boats, whatever size motor they may have, or their personal watercraft. This is just our public launch, and what we're going to propose that be approved to launch there. So make sure you understand that. If you have issues with that, you need to contact one or all of us and let us know what your opinions are. So we're going to this is just advertisement tonight.
Well, and I contrary to Mr. Lee's recommendation, I have a problem with the swimming part, because, we've got that rule in place now. I live near the upper bridge of the Wakulla River, And that ordinance gets violated every weekend of every year in the summer. And, you know, I think that we can coexist with boats there, just like we have our entire lives. I grew up at all these boat ramps and swimming holes, and, you know, you get out of the way when the boat's coming. You know, it's no different. If I want to cross the street at 319, we don't have any crosswalks except at the high school. So as an attorney pointed out to me today, it's illegal to cross that street, yet we do it, and people do it each and every day, you know. So, I mean, I would like to see us just eliminate that. City of St. Mark's has a swim at your own risk. City of Sock Choppy has a swim at your own risk. And we know we don't want any risk. We don't want any accidents or anyone to be sued. But if something happens, the risk is always there, regardless of what our ordinance says or what our sign says. I'd like to not put us in a situation where we're making people violate an ordinance that we can't enforce anyway.
Sure.
You know?
Sock Choppy, it's a good point. They have a boat ramp and they have a swimming area right next to it, right?
St. Mark's too.
Would you want to change that tonight to take that language out?
I would definitely scratch that.
So how do we just need to agree to do that, or we need to vote to do that?
You can amend your motion to provide that direction to staff, and if you get the second and it passes, we would bring it back with that amended language.
I move to strike that language about the swimming and bring it back.
Swimming becomes very dangerous if skiing is taking place, okay, because people,
Right.
so as long as you keep the boat small enough that skiing doesn't take place.
There's still going to be skiing on that lake.
Well, I'm talking about coming skiing from the boat ramp.
Right.
Okay, skiing out in the lake is different from having a start and stop point at the boat ramp. So that's when the swimming at the boat ramp can get very dangerous.
You need a second. I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Do we have any citizens on this? None? Further discussion from the board? And again, we're just advertising it to come back at a future meeting. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 3-0. All right, we'll go to item number 8, general business.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This agenda item requests board confirmation of the county administrator's appointment of Mr. Robert Clyde Collins as our chief building official.
Motion to approve.
Second.
This is Mr. Collins.
Welcome, sir. We have a motion and a second. Any citizens on this? Further discussion from the board?
Welcome aboard.
Got a chance to meet you today and look forward to working with you and doing good things.
He is going to be a big asset to our county.
Very good.
Yes.
All right, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Congratulations. General business, item number 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item requests board direction regarding the school bus shelters and rights-of-way within Wakulla County. At a past board meeting, you guys asked staff to reach out to DOT about some of the shelters that are sitting along 319 and some of our other public rights-of-way, but are clearly not in use. They're not at school bus stops, and there's weeds growing up, so clearly they have not been used in quite some time.
I move option 1 and direct staff to have non-compliant school bus shelters removed.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and
And second, 2 seconds, so that's a fourth.
any citizens? Further discussion from the board? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, all opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, public hearing, item number 10.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Where is Nanette? Oh, there you are. This agenda item requests board approval to conduct the public hearing and consider placement of traffic calming devices on Arbor View Drive within the gardens of Saraland subdivision.
Motion to approve. Conduct the public hearing, whatever it is. Conduct the public hearing, place traffic calming devices.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We do have some citizens. Mr. Nick Vargas.
How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Good, good. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the traffic calming devices, which I'm against the speed bump aspect of it. There hasn't really been a lot of information passed out to the residents of that neighborhood. I'm not sure exactly how many people were actually spoken to in regards to whether or not they were for or against. I know I've talked to several neighbors who are against, and for several reasons. I'll name off a few. Emergency responders, for every speed bump, it takes 10 seconds less off their responding time. And as everybody knows, seconds in critical situations could mean life or death. The traffic in there currently, it's a new subdivision. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a ton of construction traffic in there right now. The road that is technically being viewed is just recently finishing construction on the back end of that road. So a lot of traffic in there was construction traffic. There still is. I mean, you could see the construction guys going back and forth. They're doing that neighborhood in phases. They're working now on phase 3. They just finished phase 2, which was on the back end of that road. There's been several studies suggesting that for every speed bump that is on a neighborhood type road, devalues your property as much as $5,000 per speed bump. There's so many other avenues, I think, that we can look at first, as opposed to just going directly to speed bumps, as well as talking to community neighbors and getting everybody involved. I think there's 36 houses on that road. It's a dead-end road, so it's only one way in and one way out on the road that's being viewed. I think there's 35 houses past the house in question, which is right here, and then the road kind of wraps around and then comes back out here, and then you leave. This is the road that's in question here. These the black things are houses, black dots. They recently put a 4-way stop sign in here. There was not a 4-way stop sign. The house in question is right here, maybe 60 yards from a stop sign already, and I know that's helped out dramatically, since those stop signs have been put in. They did one test. I don't know how long. It may have lasted for 2 or 3 weeks. There was a little mailbox-looking thing out at the house in question, tracking numbers. Nobody was provided those numbers, so none of us know, anything in regards to how that test came out. I know that I was looking at some studies. I couldn't find the policy, the traffic calming policy for Wakulla County. I don't know if you guys could direct me to that or not, but I did look at other ones, and there seems to be a mean, and one of the criteria for eligibility is that there has to be at least 85 percentile of the cars, reviewed, or with the device that they set up, it has to be going 10 to 15 miles over the speed limit, and it has to be 85%.
Bring it into a close for me, please.
Yeah, so I, as well as others, are against the issuing of this until all neighbors can be included, because everybody's going to be affected by this, virtually. So I'm suggesting that we sit down as a neighborhood and put together a plan to where we can try, progressive things to see if we can, get the issue solved, which I think will be solved in a matter of months anyway. We talked to Mike Pafford. He says he should be done with construction in about 6 months, so we won't have all that construction traffic. I think it should be reviewed. I think there should be a second test conducted, especially since the 4-way stop signs have been put in place, and reconduct that test again once the subdivision is completed and you don't have all that traffic going in and out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are you aware that there was a petition and people voted yes or no?
The family walked around with their kids, and it was very awkward, to say the least. And I talked to several people who also thought the same. It was just, you were put in a bad situation. It was awkward. And again,
I don't know there's any other way to do it other than
to have a meeting, a neighborhood meeting, so everybody can get together. Again, there's a lot of houses that were still vacant on that road when that was conducted as well. So
thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Lane.
How you gentlemen doing today?
Welcome.
I am actually the house in question. I am the one that walked around with Miss Linda and Mr. Toby Scott to get the petition signed. The reason I got the petition signed was at fear of my kids, just being out by the road. My son loves to, excuse me, loves to go with me to check the mail, stuff like that, and we like to walk around our neighborhood. I got about to be 2-year-old son and a 6-year-old, and we like to walk around our neighborhood because it's a beautiful neighborhood. But we would just be walking down our street, going back to our house. My wife would be pushing a baby stroller on one side, and me walking with my 6-year-old on the other. And cars come by us like we're not even there. I mean, just fly by. And so that's kind of the reason why we didn't tell anybody that they had to sign the petition. We told them exactly everything that what we were going to do, what we're going to put in. It wasn't, a lot of people say, yeah, we're absolutely, and yes, we did take our kids sometimes to get the petition signed, not every time. But whenever my son is like my little shadow, he goes with me everywhere. I mean, I can't even go make me a sandwich in the refrigerator without him saying, Daddy, where you going? So, yes, he was with me when I got the petition signed. We walked around the neighborhood, we got it signed. A lot of people understood where we were coming from. Some people did not agree with us, and that's fine. But honestly, whenever we were talking about doing the petition and the speed hump, nobody objected to. I mean, a few people objected to it, but they could have offered us alternatives right then and there that we could have did differently. Instead, they just flat out said no. So basically, the only reason I'm doing this is for my children's safety and for the safety of everybody else in the neighborhood. I have friends that live on totally different streets that tell me every day that, or not every day, but they tell me that they almost got hit. Or Miss Linda, she couldn't be here due to family health problems, but she was riding her bike and got ran off the road twice. Okay, and one of them, she fell. One lady not paying attention coming around somebody with a lawn service truck. So she had to dip off in the ditch to keep from getting hit from somebody not paying attention going too fast. So that's the reason why we're here, and I'm just trying to come up with an alternative. We tried the stop signs. Stop signs seem to do nothing. People just fly right on through them. They don't care. And then we tried to put up speed limit signs that made no difference. People still, they constructed the test, and over 30% of the people on the test showed that they did over 30 miles an hour or faster.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Miss Lindsay Holly. Hi.
Okay, so basically I live in the neighborhood too, and the construction has nothing to do with the fact of how fast people drive. The speed limit in the neighborhood is 25 miles an hour. I honestly, if you actually think about how fast 25 is and you're walking on the side of the road, it's pretty fast. If they're going over that, that's still fast. And when you have kids, I go walking every single day in the neighborhood, and I have a dog. And literally on that road, people don't pay attention. My sister, she lives on the other road on Evening Star, nothing. No problem whatsoever. I walk around the whole neighborhood, no problems on Carousel, no problem anywhere else. But they did conduct, Wakulla Sheriff's Office conducted a test. They had 1,500 cars for 1 week. 1 week. They had 1,500 cars go in and out of that street, that one street. It sat at the end of someone's mailbox, and they had 1,500 cars come in and out. 30% of them went over the speed limit, like he said, of 25 miles an hour. Now, just because everybody knows that we are pitching a fit about this, because it's dangerous, but now, just because everybody knows, when they see us outside or something, they slow down. But then they only slow down because they see us. And then the stop signs, they put in 4 stop signs. They made it a 4-way stop. People blow through it. You'll stop, rules. I took a driving test, people. And they don't stop. they still go right straight through it. So it's like, no matter what you do, and they say speed bumps are going to mess up your car, if they're going to mess up your car, you should slow down, because they're not going to mess up your car. You know, I mean, you're looking after the safety of the people in the neighborhood, and honestly, the construction is irrelevant, because that has nothing to do with it. There's, the construction, that's just stupid. But, you know, and, you know, it has nothing to do with it, and it's a family neighborhood. You know, it's, like, everybody, I don't know, I don't think any of the points are relevant to why not to put it in there. But if it's going to keep them from speeding, I say do it. So, that's it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Ramona Coleman.
Classic example of why you don't use four-way stop signs, traffic calming.
Mm-hmm.
How many times I've said that?
Every time we've tried it, doesn't work.
Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us, and I am in favor of the speed bumps. I live on Arborview. It's a straightaway, so it is an opportunity to pick up some good speed coming from the end of the neighborhood heading this way. When I first moved in the neighborhood, I have 4 granddaughters, and they range from, you know, a baby, toddler, all the way up to 7. And last year, my granddaughter stepped off the ditch into the road and was almost hit. So this is on, you know, Arborview Way. And so that's why I'm in favor of it. I mean, the safety of children is what comes first. I understand that maybe it can damage your car, but do you know why it would damage your car? If you were going over 25 miles an hour, it would certainly damage your car. And even after they put in the stop signs, so here's the test they put right here. The stop signs, like, this wall.
It wasn't
If
facing
they
that
were
way.
30 miles, if they were going over 25,
Hang on, sir. Hang on, sir.
if
It's
they
our
were
turn.
going over 25 miles an hour, they're really picking
Ma'am,
up,
could you speak to the microphone, please?
they're really picking up a lot of speed to be able to go over that.
Hey.
Sir, please.
It was catching traffic going both ways. But anyways, so the point is that people were going a lot over the speed limit. The stop signs really didn't help a lot, and you know, the study was done with the test after the 4-way stop. They're still speeding, so that tells you that stop signs did not help in that. So I mean, really, safety first. I mean, it's a family neighborhood, a lot of children, and so again, I'm in favor of it, and I just can't see why you would be against it if it's going to protect children and it's going to stop them from being hit, stop people from being hit in their neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends
I made
our-
the motion on this. You know, I'm not a huge fan of traffic calming, but this did meet the criteria. And remember, Mike, I wrote the criteria back in the day. I do want to point out, though.
Leave job.
Huh? That's when I had cleat job, right. The average speed during this entire study period was 27 miles an hour. The speed limit's 25. Like I said, it did meet the criteria. Maybe we need to look at the criteria a little harder. The average speed was 27 miles an hour. The posted speed is 25. Now, did it meet the 30% over, exceeding it by 5 miles an hour? Yes, it did. So that's why I'm going to vote for it. But we may need to look at our criteria.
You had 40% exceeding by 5 miles per hour.
I know, but I'm look at the average speed. 27.
And the highest speed, 57 miles per
That's
hour.
right.
You know,
So
the
you're going to
lady-
have outliers.
The lady brought up a good
It's
point.
voice on
When
this.
they're doing the test, they shouldn't put the tester in front of the stop sign.
Nanette, can
Averages don't do
you
that.
come up, please, and address some of those questions that were asked? And I'll remind you if you don't remember them all. I want first of all, if you could explain to all the public how they go about if they desire a speed bump, what's the process? 'Cause that's where this started, when some of the folks there called me and I directed them to you, and that's where they ended up.
And let me say something before you start, and we're not putting in a speed bump.
Speed table.
It's a speed table that you can safely
Right.
navigate
At
at
25.
the speed. Where's a good one somebody can drive over to see?
Shell Point is a real good one. Right at Shell Point Beach.
It's wide, yes.
Yeah.
Not very
Speed
tall.
tables. Yeah,
You can,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's, so you can, I drove over the one, because I complained about the one we put on Riverty
Oh,
Spears.
Riveted Spirit,
It
but
was
we
too
fixed
much.
that, that's right.
You know, I drove over at 25, and then it jars you a little bit. They went back and redid it. You know, you can go over it. It shouldn't affect anybody's boats or nothing like that. It's not, if we were talking about a speed hump where you had to stop and ease over it, there's no way I'd support that. No way.
If you're the guy going 57 miles an hour, or a person
Would've
going
noticed
50, they would notice.
But you know, it does not make you drive 25. You can still drive over it at 35 miles an hour, and it's probably not going to hurt anything. But I just want to be sure everybody understood what we're talking about here, not speed humps.
Go ahead, Nanette, sorry.
Okay,
to hold
that's
you
all
up
right.
there.
The first criteria is to make sure that it's a local road, and we did verify with Summer that it was. Secondly, we ordered a speed study with the sheriff's office, and they provided that. After that proves that the number exceeds the speeding, we get signatures. The homeowners go out and get the signatures
Of people that live on the road
of the
only.
people that live on the road only. And it has to be either the homeowner or a renter. Just, you know, we watch it very close to make sure that it is someone that is associated with the house. It was advertised in the paper for 2 weeks. There was a sign put out at the subdivision notifying them of the meeting, and I didn't get any questions, maybe one question in all from all of that. And then the last part is for this meeting here. So that's the policy. I agree that it does need to be tweaked a little bit. You know, this is one that I can say that it just barely made the criteria for getting the speed bumps, but it's your policy.
Tell us what the criteria is one more time. What percentage of people have to be exceeding by what?
Okay, the signatures is you have to have 75% of the residents, and for a road will be determined to have a problem when 25% or more of the drivers exceed the posted speed limit by 5 miles per hour or more.
So in this one, it was 40% of the people exceeded the speed limit, and 79% of the people signed the petition.
Correct.
It met the criteria.
So it meets all the
It
criteria.
meets all your criteria.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it and trying it. Like I agree with Randy, as long as it's engineered, somewhere today I drove over I think it was New Light Church Road. They work great.
And my whole reason for saying all this is we have a policy the past board adopted. We either need to follow the policy or throw it out. This meets the criteria. It's cut and dry to me.
That's where I come down. I'm not a fan of speed bumps anywhere, but if you meet the criteria, you meet the criteria. And so I
Traffic
think
calming, not
you've got to, honor that.
So Commissioners, I'd question you with this, because whenever you approve a speed bump like this, that we'll have a rash of requests for speed bumps. So before we look at any more, do you want us to come back and update this policy, or do you want us to leave it
I
as
think
is?
that's a good idea.
Well, I know of two people right now that are looking, one at Bostic Pelt and one at Shell Point.
And I know there'll be several more in this subdivision that will.
Both collector
Collector
roads,
roads.
and we need to make sure the public understands that. Those are
Immediately
county
cross.
collector roads, and we don't allow those on
Yeah.
collector roads.
Any semi-major road of any sort is
Right.
not even allowed to have them on.
And that's in the policy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, then,
Was Shell Point at the end of the beach would be a collector?
Absolutely.
All the way down to the beach? What are we collecting? Where are we collecting
Solicitors
from?
collector, right, Summer?
I'd have to verify that. I couldn't say right offhand.
I
Where
can see
it starts and where it stops, yeah.
I can see
there's-
Bostic Pelt, but it's 15 miles per hour right there, so it's hard to justify.
Well, again,
15 miles
I may
per
be
hour.
wrong, but it's clearly,
Well, the main road, when you get on the, what's that, Beatty Taft, for sure it's not, but the main coming in, I think we looked at that not too long ago.
anyway, it's something
And
that's
then-
spelled out clearly. It's not a guesswork. It's
Yeah.
either is or it isn't.
Okay. Well, and it'll go through that process.
Yeah.
And they may apply and they may not apply.
Yeah, I agree, though, we need to strengthen it up just a little.
I'll make that as part of my motion to approve, that before we approve another one, that we need to look at our criteria. If it needs a change, it needs a change. Maybe we need to change the percentage of people that are speeding, maybe somehow formulate the average speed, or maybe something.
You can't use the average because of the Poisson distribution. I mean, that means that it's always going to be weighted towards the average, your speed limit. You have a pressure going there. But when you got 40% over 5 miles per hour, that's a pretty strong.
Well, the typical criteria, if somebody, who did the second?
I did.
You modify it to do that?
Yes.
Okay. I think the sheriff's department uses 10 miles an hour over the speed limit and giving a ticket. I don't know, whatever it is. Let's just let them look at it.
We're missing the point a little bit here. If the lady is correct and the speed determination was 20 foot and put a stop sign, that's the wrong place to put it. Because you're going to be slowing down to the stop sign already, or you're going to be starting up from the stop sign.
Well, they met the,
Well, it would be worse. It would be worse.
That's what I'm saying. You put it out where that you can get a true indication of what the speed would be.
It met the criteria.
It is a true indication if you look at it, because it picks the vehicles way down the road and you don't pick them up there. It's just a place to put it. You can put it on a pole. It'll shoot a half a mile.
So it's a radar, it's not okay.
Yeah, it's a radar.
And that we've also, Nanette has, we've aggravated, Lieutenant Yarborough, is it, or Sergeant Yarborough, enough to where, they're getting a new set of, new radars and all that stuff, so improve the systems, because we had some questions about some of the data we were getting back.
Not on this road, but on some other roads.
On some other, not on this one, but on some other roads.
Showing people driving 90 miles an hour on a...
Well, no, it's some of the data, especially on, it was,
Wooden Lake.
Wooden Lake Road, we were having some problems, so it wasn't working there for some reason.
Very good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Nanette.
Okay. That ends our public hearing. No planning and zoning items, commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Moore.
Okay, I've had a lot of citizens to ask me who they're going to vote for and what party that person belongs to. And I know that in 210, we were able to vote for either a Republican or a Democrat candidate. The people then were able to choose the philosophy that they chose. But then again, in 212, we instituted a non-party election. And as I said one time at a meeting before, the House of Representatives do not do a non-party election. The governor does not do a non-party election. None of the state people, some of the counties do non-party, but if it's such a good thing for everybody else, then why is the county doing a non-party? It's my position and the position of a lot of people that I've talked to, that they want to know who they're going to vote for. It's extremely important. Someone can slide in. When I came on the commission in 210, the county was almost a Democrat party on the commission. The state was going to take us over. For whatever reason that was, it was still almost a Democrat commission at that particular time. But the people that I've talked to, we just put it on the ballot and let the people make a decision. They made a decision in 210, but I think under the position that we are in the world today, that everybody needs to be able to know who they're going to vote for and what philosophy that person has. And that's why I'm asking you to vote to bring this back to the ballot and let the people decide. It's the same thing with a lot of other things. Bring it to the ballot and let the people make the decision. So I'd like to have a second on that if I could get a second.
That's your motion? Do we have a second? Like we're not going to get a second, Jerry. Motion dies for lack of second.
Easy one, Jerry. That was very easy. All right. It was 2014, by the way, when it was on the referendum.
Yeah.
We've had one election since then, so but even if you were complaining about it,
doesn't hurt to bring it forward.
Still have time.
Commissioner Hess, item number 12.
Okay. This is a request for us to approve a resolution to send to our legislators about the Florida DEP's failure. I mean, the legislature has not acted on a report the DEP got. And what they've done is they've avoided making a decision just by not accepting the report. In 2008, they required the DEP to send them a report by 2010. DEP sent them to a report by 2010, and this report they haven't accepted since then. And because they haven't accepted, they've kept their preemption of any local rules or activities on plastics from moving forward. And I think that, this is not the way for us to be governed. If they're going to require this report, they should need to accept the report and move on. If they want to do something, otherwise let communities make the decision.
We have a motion and a second, and before we call the citizens, I think you're exactly right. I definitely will be supporting this, and this is what we've been fighting in Tallahassee. I've been fighting for the past 5 years, is to try to keep the state from preempting local governments to make that decision. We may not ultimately end up with the same place, but we're at the same place here,
right,
that decision is best made locally. All right, Ms. Tammy Barfield.
I just wanted to express support for the residents.
Thank you, ma'am. And that is all of our citizens. Further discussion from the board? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Good job, Chuck.
Thank you.
And the report was quite interesting. And it wasn't even, a firm, okay, this is the path to go, but there's multiple paths.
There's multiple paths. There's a lot of ways to do it, and they give them options, and either the state can do it, or they can let communities do it.
Yeah.
The options are there.
Very good. Thank you. All righty. So that ends our commissioner agenda items. County attorney.
And nothing this evening.
County administrator.
Oh, yeah. Just a reminder, let you guys know that a budget workshop, 3 p.m., June 18th, right before our Summer's next board meeting. She's the and also that's at 3 p.m. on June 18th. And also to remind you, all the ear amendments are on this upcoming meeting. So you got a lot. Your reading is cut out for you if you so choose to read those.
You have 800 pages. So.
Yeah, about 800 pages worth. So
This is the evaluation and proposal report that we went over extensively before.
Yes, correct. It's the adoption hearing.
yeah, it's an adoption hearing. So just to give you a thing, Brandy is going to give you guys a financial update real quick, a short one.
Short one.
Well, yeah, I have to say that you have a tendency to.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Are you guys excited about the budget workshop coming up?
Oh, yes. Can't hardly sleep.
I know, I'm the same way. Well, we're going to talk about 18-19 at the budget workshop, but right now we're going to talk a little bit about what we got going on this year. We're looking at a couple things that are some challenges for us right now in our general fund, and we're primarily going to be talking about the general fund. Litigation is a big one this year for us. We spend typically about $100,000 to $125,000 a year on litigation, and this is stuff that's not included under the regular contract scope of NGN. Right now, we're on track this year to spend about $165,000. So we kind of missed our budget there, and we've got some lawsuits in particular that are dragging us down, being the Mathers issue for one thing. We've spent $171,000 over the last 4 years on that. We've spent about $15,000 on Lake Ellen and about $8,500 on the Lofton asbestos issue. So these are things that we're trying to draw back where we can the rest of the year because they're kind of unanticipated. We do have some good news in the general fund. Our fuel remediation that goes on right out here for our plume underneath the ground is idle for the rest of the year. It was starting to become ineffective and actually removing any of that. They thought the best thing to do was leave it idle. So we'll save some money there. Our workers' comp, we had a Office of State Regulation insurance change this year that has affected us. It's projected to decrease next year. So we've got some places where we missed the budget. We got some places where we've got some savings, and we are backing down. But as you know, personnel is your biggest expense in the general fund. So we're looking at operating issues and things like that to hold where we can. We are also trying to identify in our probation department, our revenue keeps dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And some of you may remember about 3 years ago, we outsourced the pretrial release service. And we also shifted an employee over to that company, and we thought we were still going to retain a certain amount of revenue, and it just keeps going away and going away. David and I are looking into the exact reason why that's happening. It's not for lack of them having people coming into probation because they're very busy. So we're working on that and looking at some different options maybe for next year of how we can handle that. That's pretty much what we have going on in the general fund this year that's causing us a little bit of heartache. That probation number is definitely going to miss our budget, our revenue budget this year. Also, we're looking at some potential changes in our road fund next year. We've run out the 5-year models, and we have to live within that revenue that we collect in those gas taxes, and as y'all know, that's a very flat tax, and those costs go up each year. So we may be running some different ideas and different methods of how we can support our road department as well as our fleet department, which is also serviced out of our road fund. So, got anything else? That was brief.
That pretty much covers it. That's
All right.
that's a good.
I'm trying to get David to let me make balloon animals at the next budget workshop, so y'all just let me know if anybody's in support of that. I thought it would be great.
Thank you, Brandy. With that, we'll go to Ms. Nanette. We had our second litter summit of the year, and it seems like we're having some good progress, and she'll report on that.
Question is, have y'all noticed lack of garbage on the side of the roads? Hello?
No.
No? I don't know where you're going, because for me, I see much less, much less. Randy,
Ride down Raywinkle Road.
you need to talk to your neighbors.
Yeah. It's not the only road. I mean, I think most any road there.
Well, I drive 319 in, and there's definitely less on the side of the road coming in on 319.
I'd say maybe a little less on 319.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, on Smith Creek, there's a lot less, a lot less.
And the sheriff's department spends a lot of time on 319. But I don't think it's because the citizens are taking a whole lot more pride. I'd like to, I don't want to chastise everybody, but we need to do a better job still.
I agree. We're still working on it. Let me tell you what we're doing. The sheriff's office has been short-staffed. They've not been able to clean up as much as they usually do, but they have been stopping vehicles with unsecured debris, and the FHP has also been doing that, which is a big step forward. They've not issued any citations for that, but they are issuing warnings. Waste Pro, when someone comes in there with an unsecured load, they're warning them and telling them what's going on, trying to get that in hand. Hopefully that'll make a big difference on MLK. I don't go that way often, but when I do, there's not as much as what I used to remember there being.
And also, FHP is stopping Waste Pro trucks as well.
Yeah, and Waste Pro has told their drivers that if they get a ticket for unsecured load or debris flying off, that Waste Pro's not paying that. The driver has to. It makes them much more responsible. Keep Wakulla County Beautiful has been very active. At our first meeting, we talked about rewriting the litter ordinance in order to offer stiffer crimes. My favorite story with stiffer crimes is about Texas, that Texas raised their stiffer crimes for littering up to $2,000. And over a course of just a few years, they reduced their littering by 76%. So we're looking at raising ours to $250, as well as community service, where they'll have to go out and pick up some of that trash.
But Texas had a catchy slogan, too, right?
They did. Do you remember that slogan? Don't mess with Texas. That's what that was about. So anyway, they've worked with the sheriff's office. They've turned it into legal to see about the wording on it.
Scheduled and advertised that.
Perfect. Okay. So they've made progress on that. They've also been emailing their businesses about their Adopt a Road program, trying to make sure that they're staying active with that. They've sent Ethel Johnson from St. Mark's for training, and so this next school year she should be in the schools with teaching education. So I think we mainly have to target our high school. Studies show that it's high school boys that like to litter. I can imagine with all the pickup trucks. But anyway, getting more education into there. And they'll also be working on providing more trash cans, or getting the fast food restaurants to have trash cans. McDonald's has one, Sonic has one, that when you go through and you throw your trash right in there. I know I use those. And they also have a new executive director who will be coming in and making presentations to you in the near future. Waste Pro has been putting notices, their quarterly notices, in the Wakulla News as we requested them to. They've also working, as I said before, with the people that are coming through with unsecured loads, and they are looking for more ways to inform their customers about their pickup during holiday schedules. This past week was a nightmare. Everybody thought they would be off on Memorial Day, so there was lots of garbage sitting out on the side of the road much longer than it should have been, and we're working on ways to fix that next time. ESG Public Works has received a reader board, and they're going to start putting that out when it's not being used for anything else. Just talking to people about the Waste Pro, littering, holiday services, things as such. They're also continuing to pick up roadside debris, especially that's dumped illegally, and it just kind of falls through the cracks of who's going to pick it up, and they come to the rescue and pick that up. We have put on our website about the holiday hours for Waste Pro. Waste Pro is working on updating their website with Crawfordville. It's not on there right now, and a lot of people have been confused over that, and so we're working with them, telling them that we want everything that Tallahassee has. You can find Tallahassee's schedule, but not ours. And basically, you know, we're just trying to get more information, working with the schools. If you have any other suggestions, we're happy to hear them.
I'd say 90% of your paper on 98 Highway are from boats and trucks blowing out the back. It's not so much people throwing it out, but boats and trucks.
I agree.
Especially on 98 because they come off off the ramps and they just get up to speed and it starts coming out.
So we can try putting that reader board, the message board, out at some of the boat ramps and reminding them to clean out their boats before they take off.
And we have trash cans there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No need to take it home. Dump it before you go.
There you go. Save yourself a fine.
No, we're trying, and it's making a difference. But until all the citizens of this county wake up and say, we're part of the problem, I don't think it's going to, we'll ever solve the problem. It's about, again, I'm going to say it's about pride in our community.
I agree.
And when people take the pride, I once said this in an article a long time ago when I can't remember her name now, that was in charge of Keep Wakulla County Beautiful.
Marge Law.
Marge Law. And she said, you know, give me a quote. And I said, well, I pick up the trash in front of my house in the ditch, and I go across the road and pick up the trash in the ditch. If we could get everybody to do that along the roadways, then we'd have a cleaner community.
Everybody, every business.
But that's one step, and the other part is just not throwing it out windows. And, you know, when they went down and mowed 98 this past week, I saw where me and my wife were talking about it. They mowed full bags of garbage. When they run over them, there were full bags of garbage that blew out of backs of something, either trucks or, you know, uncovered loads. So, again, it's just a pride issue, and, you know, the citizens, I mean, we got a beautiful county, and we you know, we tote that, and it's something that we got to decide that's important to us as citizens, and we got to do something about it individually. It's not going to change. So
I agree.
We shouldn't have to spend all this money doing it. The government shouldn't have to spend all this money cleaning up after people who live here. So that's just my opinion.
Well, we agree with you.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nanette.
Further discussion?
That's
Anything further?
it from me.
All right. Citizens to be heard, Patty? None. Discussion items from commissioners? Mike, kick it off.
One is, when is the official opening of the bike trail down 98?
We're waiting on FDOT to give us that date.
Okay. If you haven't seen it, it's beautiful, and it's going to really add to the counties. I mean, that's something that's really nice. Road mowing, they mowed 98. I was this close to coming to this meeting, and I was going to have my wife stand. She's short, but I was going to have her stand in the stuff that was growing on the side of 98, and take a picture of her. You wouldn't be able to see her because that's how tall the stuff had gotten. They mowed it. It looks outstanding.
They did a full width, right?
Yes.
Blocks and cutoff, they did a full width mow too.
Yes, it looks much better. Thank you.
And speaking of bike trails, if I could jump in, during this last rain we had, there were some spots on the new trail that were completely underwater. I don't know if they looked at that or if that's
Cleve? I know you had brought up one of those a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
we were heading somewhere and I couldn't stop and get a photo. My wife's like,
yeah, Cleve, you were going to talk to the project manager there.
They're going to be lost for that.
I didn't hear the part about being completely covered with water. We have talked to DOT about the erosion we've had.
Right.
And we had severe erosion along the bike trail. But, you know,
it
that
was somewhere in there by Bull Sink, right in that area. It kind of dips down real low, and I don't know, it completely covered the trail.
I'll talk to DOT tomorrow, but...
There's a big retention pond there too, so I don't know if maybe they just don't have it graded right or something.
And I suspect that their design criteria is not the same as it would be for a road, for example. It may just be designed for maybe intentionally floods once a year, or twice, whatever, because it's a bike trail. I mean, that's right. But people don't use it to commute to work or nothing like that.
Now, DOT has brought the contractor back in for remedial work on the bike trail, because we were supposed to take that over or do a walkthrough on it about 2 weeks ago, and they reactivated the contractor to come in and do some more sodding, stabilize the slopes on each side of the bike trail. So, but I'll talk to DOT tomorrow.
And if we catch another big rain, I'll try to catch a photo of it and pinpoint the location.
I think we're funded for that thing all the way down to
Yep.
to a match.
And also they were doing some work in Panacea right now on the sidewalks, so, yeah.
They've got design drawings to take it all the way from high school all the way to...
And we're looking at ways to maintain that in the future, and we're going to pull it into the road fund. Right now, we're getting ready to put out a RFP, ITB, I always get that wrong, ITB for mowing services, and we've priced it out in-house. We're going to see what we can get it done for an open market and see which one work best for us.
That's just the trail.
That is all our trails, everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's all.
David, what do you think we're going to be mowing from Sop Choppy to the coast?
We'll be moving Sop Choppy to the coast and to St. Mark's.
Coast to St. Mark. Is the bike trail coming up 319 anyway toward town?
No.
Okay, that was misinformation. What do you expect that to cost to do that mowing?
Right now, the labor cost right now is running about $90,000.
About
90.
19,000.
90. 90. A
little
little less than that, but yeah.
100,000 a year to mow the bike trail.
Anything further? All right. I see Mr. Boynton out in the audience. I know we've all got phone calls and all got emails about his issue, and I've spoken to staff about it. But I just wanted to see maybe Randy, particularly since Randy works in the construction industry, just get the thought of the board and see if there's a solution there, or there's not a problem and he needs to comply with the rules, or do we need to change the rules?
I had talked, David, you went and looked at it the other day. First of all, I'm not willing to entertain changing a rule for one person.
Mm-hmm.
David, when you looked at it, you said...
He's close. He just needs to be cleaned up a little bit more and let the grass grow. And
grass was coming in.
A little bit of mulching here and there would help it. And then he's ready to go, going to be ready for a punch list at that point in time.
Mr. Boynton, if you'd like to speak on it.
Briefly.
If you will, fill out a speaker card when you're done. I know you did.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Ben Boynton. I'm the developer of that project. We have talked. I talked to each of you pretty much at length of this. And the problem is that when you seed the project, that you have drought and you water it, it doesn't come up. You have heavy rains and you get slight erosion. It does come up and it is contained. Grass on the road is a subjective issue. It's a call made. I know, Commissioner Merritt, you and I talked about doing a performance bond. That would solve all the problems.
I talked to Summer today. Summer, you said that's
not allowed.
We changed the rule in 2015 or something?
Well, then,
correct.
the maintenance bond works also if you would let me, anything that is not completed, then I could do 100% of the bond value, bond it for 2 years. And at that particular time, when I go back in to get the roads accepted by the county, that road has got to be pristine. All the drains have got to be blown out. They've got to be blown out anyway, but they've got to be blown out then. All the ditches have got to be covered with grass. And if, for some reason, I'm sitting there and asking the county to accept the road, and we still have houses under construction to be done in that subdivision, and the roads are and the ditches are disturbed, which they will be, then what you do is you go in and, as part of the CO, you have that builder sod the slope for his CO. So when the maintenance bond is extinguished, anything that is disturbed is fixed by me. Anything that is future disturbed is fixed by the builder before he gets a CO. That way, it's all solved. And I'm not sitting there being held hostage. Right now, I'm 60 days back, and it's very important to me for cash flow. If it looks like that you're not going to go with this program with me, give me some more model homes to build, because 3 is not enough to carry my cash. Right now, I'm sitting there. I started the TRC meeting on April the 12th. I'm sitting here. The best scenario I've got is that I go and I'm released, and I go in front of you guys in early August. I cannot put a building permit or get a CO until my plat is recorded. Okay? You know, I'm dead in the water, guys. I'm dead in the water. And I'm sitting there with a lot of cash on the front end, sewer, roads, water. I've all got to pay that up front. So I need some help. I need some relief. This doesn't hurt the county one bit. Also, I have to have a punch list from the county so that I can comply with their guidelines. And when I go in front of the DRC meeting, we have with all the staff, we have a meeting around the round table. At that particular point, I need the punch list from DRC. That gives me 2 weeks to finish that project up, to be on the advertising schedule, so that the planning department, planning commission can hear my case the second Thursday of the next month, and you guys would come online the first Monday of the following month. That's a 6-week window. You can't do it any shorter than 6 weeks. But if I miss that 2-week deadline, I'm pushed back 30 days. If for some reason the county doesn't give me a punch list, or they don't approve my site, I'm pushed back another 30 days. And that's why I sit today. My road is fine. It is fine. Before I did this, Can you bring it in? I'm sorry.
Can you bring it into a close?
Yeah, I've developed in this county for years. I have my way of doing it. The county's never been burned on any of my stuff. Okay?
Thank you, sir. So, David, this is all about the stabilization of the ditches. Now, is what he's asking for any different than what we just did on the repaving at Shadeville, when they rebuilt the shoulders and they brought one strip of sod down there and then they seeded everything else?
Yeah, we held the contractor to that, yes.
I mean, is that...
Seeded and mulched it.
Seeded and mulched it, yes.
That's the mulching is the...
Yeah, and what we haven't moved the ball.
So I don't really understand the difference.
Yeah.
What's the difference in what?
Mulching, you put hay down with it, right? Kind of extra stabilize. You put the seed and the mulch. What Ben did is fine if over...
Well, and what we've done, even in our subdivisions...
With no mulch to hold it.
Right. And even in our subdivisions that we're redoing in Wakulla Gardens, we're coming behind it right after we pave. We're coming in, dressing the slopes out, spraying the seed and mulch, and within 30 days, we're grass.
And his will grow.
And we even did that back in January. My thing is, we haven't moved the ball.
Yeah.
The ball has not been moved. It's up to Ben. He's in the development business to back up, and he knows his deadlines. Period. End of story. That's a 100% in his game. We haven't moved the ball.
Is a bond not for the purpose?
Not for, because the problem is you technically, with those roads, if it's not stabilized and we take it, we assume a huge liability, because what if all of a sudden that road gets the road, and next thing you know it gets this. Here's the problem. Ben knows what to do. He knows exactly, he knew it going in. Here's what I had to, he said he's done it before. I know I have to do this, so I'm going to back my schedule up. He didn't do it. He didn't do the work. So at the end of the day, now he's coming to you guys saying, I didn't do my job, so I want y'all to back up and you give me break. And that's not, how can we enforce something?
And we don't have an agenda rule.
How can we enforce something whenever, it just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. I'm sorry for him, but at the end of the day, it's his own fault.
We can't change the rule tonight anyway.
No.
We can't just say, we like his idea, do that. We can't do that either.
Yeah.
So all we could do, if you want to bring back an agenda item to change the land development code,
I wouldn't do that, because that's
No, but I'm
part of
saying
your
that's the
critical,
only
that's
thing-
your part of your critical mass, and every other developer that we've got in this county follows it.
If there's anything that could be done, that would be bring back an agenda item, but
Yeah.
Well,
So there's-
and that's why I'm asking the question, because I don't see a clear path forward to do that, and that's why I'm trying to figure.
the only thing this board could do is going to take at least 3 or 4 months. So there's nothing we could do tonight to say,
But is
do
it,
this
is
or
it
do that.
something that should be done so this doesn't reoccur in the future, or is it something that's not a problem? I mean, obviously, it's a problem for Mr. Boynton.
I mean, I've approved many of final plats.
We haven't had, this is the first time we've had this problem.
And I was the
And
guy.
we've approved, this year, we've already approved plats.
And one thing that Ben said that disturbs me is what he just said is, he's got his way of doing it. Well, we don't do it the way the developers do it. We have a detailed plan that they're supposed to follow, and Ben knows that. He should follow that. We can't do it every way every developer wants to do it, because then the next one's going to come in and have some problem with some part of it. It's protecting the county. It's the way we got to do business, and that's, I mean, we have evolved a long way over the years in detailing how developers are supposed to do business, and this is I think we're somewhere now where we need to be, and we need to leave it alone. So that's just my opinion.
I agree with that. I was in the development business. As long as the rules are applied to, and they're applied consistently as a developer, that's all I wanted. And that's all any developer, as long as I know, because I know, here's that date, and I need these closings by then, I need to back myself up. Then at that point in time, that's my fault if I don't get it. As long as the county hasn't moved the ball. That's Ben's fault. He should have started earlier, he should have done this earlier, whatever.
Do we have a,
Hang on, Mr. Boynton, hang on, Mr.
do we have a final plat checklist somewhere that y'all use to?
Yes, there are checklists for both reviewing the final plat and for the punch list, so to speak, the in-the-field investigations and reviews.
And that will be, I've talked to Cleve and Ned and Summer, and we'll be getting that punch list to him hopefully this week.
Okay.
But he has a lot of stuff to do.
All right, we're going.
You got a lot of stuff to do, yes, man.
Hang on a minute. We can't solve any of that here at this meeting tonight, so we got it out, we had a discussion, we're going to move on. Chuck?
Yeah, we had a hearing from DOT this week about 319 widening in Crawfordville. I think, Mr. Thomas, you attended, and, this is a real important issue for our community, and there were some certain things we've been talking about, and they weren't included on this plan. I mean, the first one is central stormwater for downtown Crawfordville. I mean, a regional stormwater utility down here really makes a lot of sense. But on the plans, they're taking the Sonic and the Chevron station and turning them into stormwater ponds right on 319. This is not regional stormwater. The idea is to get the water off of 319 so we can have the commercial district on 319 and the water's off of the road. Okay, so these are high dollar properties that are going to just turn into stormwater ponds that not very attractive for our community and don't do anything to build our downtown. The next one, I'm looking at Wooden Lake Road. They're buying all the property behind Dollar General. That means there's enough room back there that we could take Ivan Church, East Ivan, and move it up and match it up to Wooden Lake, and we'd have a good intersection. We'd have a viable intersection where you have a stoplight and people can get in and out of these two major collectors with ease, okay? And then the next one is the traffic access at the Cuban Mojo intersection, okay? Once that gets a median in there, that's really gonna constrict businesses that don't have a traffic light to get in and out of that area. So we need to make sure that we have a traffic signal there, and number one, it'll pulse the traffic and also allow business, because that's a real business area we're still expanding into, and we need to be focused on.
What are you talking about?
Cuban Mojo, it's right there where Century Park, El Jalisco
Century
area,
Park.
right there.
Old Beef O'Brady's.
Old Beef O'Brady's. And that's going to be a really important intersection.
Now, we discussed about the stormwater stuff, but I don't think we're in a position to demand anything. Didn't they,
We've talked to them about that, and they're willing to do it. It's just, we've just got to do a few studies on it. Number one is we got to determine number one is the cost to get into the stormwater business versus the land that we're going to actually save. What is that cost-benefit ratio? And that's what we're trying to get a study done, and we're applied for grants for this so that we can get that initial study to say, because it may be, instead of saying makes sense for this big area, may have to narrow it down to this, because yeah, we can cut out some stormwater, but you're not gaining anything financially from a development impact side. So we got to determine that, and determine what area is the best effective area, and that's what we need some help with.
And you got to delineate the basins,
and
too.
Delineate, that's the problem, is you got so many basins, and which basin do we go to, and where is the most effect going to be, and that's what we got to figure out.
But the basins will just determine where your ponds are going to be, and that's where you would take the water.
Yeah, but you got to determine
the whole idea is to open up that space on 319 and not turn that into
retention. But you need to do it
ponds.
intelligently, and not you need to say, okay, what is my cost-benefit ratio? Meaning, it's going to cost us $10 million to get into the stormwater business, but yet there's only going to be a development value of $500,000 by doing that. That's what I mean. That doesn't make sense. So that's what I mean. We got to make sure, and that's what the purpose of the study is, to study these basins to make sure what we need to do.
Who does that? Who pays for that study?
We'll have to pay for that study unless we get a grant. They're not cheap. So that's what we're trying to do, and I've already talked to engineers, talked to 3 engineers already, and every one of them are saying the same thing. You're right. You need to do that cost-benefit analysis, and this problem is they don't. That's a lot of work.
Are we saying that their engineering on the retention ponds is not adequate?
No. DOT has already said they will expand the retention ponds to help us out. We would have to pay for that, and we'd also have to pay for the increase in size of lines. The first part of that, though, is where do we do that? Do we just make a carte blanche and say we do it from Walmart to here?
No,
I'm just saying we got to narrow it down and say where does it make sense to do it, and where it is.
My question, though, is with DOT doing retention ponds on 319 coming down the way, are we saying that's not adequate?
No.
They have the carrying capacity. He's just saying, an eyesore, bad location.
It's an eyesore, and he's
taking away
right.
commercial property.
That's right. It doesn't make sense for us to do that. You're taking businesses offline.
Not to put them on the front.
But that's right. But the problem becomes is where, we got to figure out where else to get them.
So our lowest basin is what, that area right in front of the post office?
The lowest, one of the lower basins we got is actually where Sonic is, and it goes down in that.
Chevron station floods constantly.
It floods constantly.
So that should be a stormwater pond.
Yeah,
what about that property there in front of the post office where we've got Crabapple Park or something?
Crabapple Park, yeah.
It's a sinkhole.
It's a sinkhole.
It conducts the aquifer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Put some more in there.
Good thought. But that's the problem is where do you, and what it'd be nice if actually these basins drained into something like a creek or whatever in the.
Well, we don't have any creeks in
that's what I mean.
Everything's going into the ground in Wakulla
right.
County. We don't have any creeks, but there is a lot of space behind, where they're putting that big pond back behind Mary Avenue or right there on Shadeville Highway. There's building a big pond. That's a really big pond. We can take most of this water to if we have the right size pipes, and that's.
Yeah, so and you're right, and that's what we're looking at. The problem is I can spend a bunch of money and get absolutely nothing.
Yeah, just
and I'm not about that, and I don't think you guys are either. I want to make sure when we get it, we've got a good intelligence saying if we spend this amount of money, we know we're going to get this much economic value out of it. That's all I'm trying to do.
So you're talking about recapturing it from, connection fees?
Yeah, you'd have to form a utility, a stormwater utility, where you pay an access fee into the facility, and it has advantages, meaning you can, instead of having to have a Winn-Dixie stormwater pond, that could come out of the equation. That's right. That could come out of the equation and become a marketable lot at that point in time. So that has value, so you'd pay into that. and just a series of stormwater ponds, they take up a lot of area, a lot of good developable area.
And the problem is we're losing a lot of our downtown, okay? And that seems to me that the issue here is we have a pretty defined downtown from McDonald's down to the courthouse. That's a pretty well-defined downtown for everything we're working on right now.
Yeah.
This is where we need to try to focus this.
And I think probably what Commissioner Merritt's saying is probably no matter what we do, the Chevron station is going to have a demise there anyway, from a stormwater standpoint.
Floods all the time.
Yeah, it floods all the time. So that is the lowest point in the basin.
The Thurman's place next door to it, I told them to call DOT, see if DOT would buy it. Their strip mall.
Oh, that strip mall, yeah, we had a problem there 2 years ago. Bad problem.
I had a problem there pretty recently where it flooded.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if they reached out to them or not, but
They were at the meeting.
that's that and that park back here is one of the lowest spots around.
Yeah,
Actually, Brent was there on their behalf.
that's right. That's
We'll
right.
go over to Barry.
So he's right. Chuck's right.
But the problem, again, is we don't have any positive discharge for stormwater. Everything is a closed basin.
That's right.
That's why the Winn-Dixie pond is so big. That's why the Walmart pond is so big. You can't say hold a 25-year storm and the remainder can be there's nowhere to discharge it. Right. So
that makes it tough.
Everything goes underground, but we have great drainage. Once it gets into these ponds, they drain out pretty quickly. It's possible to do. We can handle this. We just have to make sure we get focused on preserving a downtown community.
So it's still going to be a pond, you just want the pond a little further off of
I just want the
319.
pond off the road. And
That's right.
Can do, take the water out there where it's not taking up valuable commercial real estate.
Mm-hmm.
How long have we got to?
And we have to have a policy moving forward so David has something to argue with the DOT.
Well,
DOT.
we've talked to DOT, and we still got a little bit of time on this. In fact, I just sent an email earlier in this meeting to DOT to sit down and talk about a few things, this being one of them. But let me look at a couple of things, but I may bring something back to you guys.
Good example is the pond underneath by the Walgreens, right, that power line. That really solved a lot of problems for the store across the road.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a big pond. That's way oversized.
I'd love to be able to get all this down there, but can't fight grade that far.
All right. Randy, any discussion?
Motion adjourned.
All right, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
The lowest meat was added. Long time.